Hello, it's Wayman here, and today I'll be going over my experience tabling at Artist Alley at MagFest. As you can see, the format for this video is a little different. I decided to do just more of a voiceover intermingling with some clips instead of my usual vlogging style because simply I didn't film enough footage. I was way too busy at this convention because it was just crazy. Like, MagFest is just a crazy convention from just how many people are there to the 24-hour aspect, but I will definitely get into all of that in this video. But getting into MagFest, this year it happened on January 23rd through 26th at the Gaylord National Resort at National Harbor, Maryland. So that's around like 20 minutes outside of DC, which is super local to me. So I have been attending MagFest for quite a few years as an attendee, but this is my first time ever getting into MagFest, which is crazy. MagFest has been one of my favorite conventions to attend just because there's so much to do, like all the games, the music aspect. If you didn't know, MagFest stands for Music and Gaming Fest, so it's a combo of two like things I really enjoy. So when I first got the news that I got in, I was just elated. I was so excited. MagFest is very competitive to get into. The application window was only 30 minutes long, so you had to be like up and ready to apply, which is crazy. If you miss it, you miss it, and you just gotta apply next year. And there's not a lot of tables available. They intermingle Artist Alley and vendors together, so you could be next to retro video game salesperson. You could be next to like a trading card booth, you know? They intermingle everything into one room, which is kind of nice because it sort of guarantees that people will go through everything and see your booth. But MagFest was my first convention of 2025, so I had a decent amount of time to prep for it. But of course, me being me, I decided at the last minute, I'm gonna learn how to screen print from scratch. I'm gonna learn how to screen print all these tote bags, and it's gonna be great. It was very difficult, actually. So the hardest part that I was having the hard time with was making the screens themselves, because this is essentially the base for all your prints afterwards. I just couldn't figure it out. I bought so much of this emulsion and trying to burn these screens, but I was trying to burn the screens with a nail lamp because it was just cloudy and cold all of January where I was living, and it just wasn't working out. It was so difficult. And when I saw all the TikTok tutorials, everyone's like, it's so easy. You can do it at home too. No. In the future, I'm gonna be ordering custom screens from a professional. I could do the printing part of the screen printing. Kinda. I was messing up a lot on that too. I have a lot of B-grade tote bags, but eventually I sort of got the hang of it. But the issue still came back to my screen because I just didn't make it the best. And your screen is the basis for all the prints after. So if there's a mistake in your screen, it'll show up in all your tote bags. So there were some like imperfect lines and all of that. It was such a struggle, and it was actually making me so stressed because I was literally working on these until like Wednesday, the day before MagFest. Thankfully, I live super close to the venue, so I was able to work until the day before, but it was literally driving me crazy. If you want to ever screen print, I think you can make your screens to save money, but if you want to save your brain cells, I would just have a professional make it because, oh my god. But after I did all my prep and got ready, I decided to set up on Wednesday since I live pretty close by and it wasn't too much of a hassle, just to save my energy for Thursday. Because the thing about MagFest is that it's actually a 24-hour con. So things are open for 24 hours, including the vendor hall, since the vendor hall is connected to the arcade and all that. So what does that mean? Does that mean you have to sleep under your table and just be homeless for 4 days? No. Please don't sleep under your table. You can set your own hours. MagFest just asks you to be open for at least 8 hours. So you could set your hours from 1 to 4 p.m., for example, take a 5-hour nap, and then work from midnight to 4 a.m. if you really want to, but I would not recommend those hours. Me personally, I showed up around 11 every day and stayed until 9 to 10 whenever it kind of died down. But the thing about MagFest is that people are coming in and out the whole day. So honestly, like, there would be like peak hours, but there would just be lulls and like waves of people. For example, around dinner time, I noticed there was kind of a lull, so you kind of get tricked into thinking, oh, it's kind of the end time of people shopping, and then you get hit with like a big wave of the after dinner rush. And then because MagFest is kind of a party con, there's also the 1 a.m. drunk sales that people capitalize on. I know some people stayed open till 2 a.m., but that's just not for me. I need to sleep. But if you have a helper and you want to take shifts, like, it's something to try out. I definitely think you'll probably get some sales, but it might not be worth sacrificing your health for. But another thing about MagFest's 24-hour aspect is, what do you do with all your stuff since the vendor hall is open 24 hours? For most conventions, they lock the room after hours so nobody can get in besides staff. So your stuff is pretty secure if you leave it behind. But MagFest is just kind of there and people are still walking about 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So it's really up to you and your personal preference. The safest option would probably be to haul most of your merch out every day and keep it at home or in your hotel room. But I know some people just leave their stuff and they're just chill with it. So it's really up to you. I know some people have suitcases that lock and then they use a bike chain to lock their suitcase to their table so no one steals the whole thing. And I think that's a pretty good solution. But in the end, the safest option is to probably bring all your stuff to your hotel room or whatever. But I didn't have any theft problems at MagFest. But of course, you never know what could happen. It's up to you how you want to deal with the 24-hour convention. But the parking around National Harbor is a sneaky, a scam perhaps, allegedly. But when I show up on Wednesday and when I look online, the parking is $24, which is expensive, but whatever, it's okay. I go and park on Wednesday, $24. When I show up on Thursday, I see a little piece of tape and paper on top of the original price, and it now says $34, which is crazy. Nowhere on their website says that they changed the prices for this event. If you do the math, MagFest is 4 days. So if you were to pay for parking and just stay for more than 6 hours, which most people would do, you'd stay at the convention like all day. That's $136, which is kind of crazy. So my trick for parking for MagFest is actually do not park at National Harbor. Go park at the MGM casino that's a few minutes away. It's not within walking distance, but you can take a free shuttle or the metro bus to National Harbor from the MGM casino, and there's free parking there because they want you to park there and gamble, you know. If they charge for parking, people won't come and gamble. So on days where I didn't have to drag a lot of stuff to the convention, we would just park at MGM and take the bus over and saved ourselves $34. That's like a nice meal, you know? So if you're ever going to MagFest or Katsucon too, since it's at the same convention center, I definitely recommend doing this. Save yourself that hard-earned money to go spend at Artist Alley. Yay. But I would park at National Harbor on the load-in days and the load-out days just for the convenience. But otherwise, I'm not giving them any more money, especially since they're so sneaky about it. If it was $24, I kind of would consider more parking there, but $34 is kind of crazy to me. But anyway, when we come on Thursday, everything's already all set up, so I just have to like open up shop and hope for the best. I've never personally done a 4-day convention until MagFest, so I didn't really know what to expect on a Thursday. I kind of just thought it would be kind of like how Fridays are for other conventions, where people are still at work, people are busy, so it's not super crazy. But MagFest is one of those conventions like people take time off for. People are really loyal and excited for MagFest. So people were waiting outside that vendor hall. Another thing about the vendor hall is that it's basically connected to all the other halls. And if you want to go to the other halls, like the gaming hall, the arcade, the challenges, you have to go through the vendor hall. So essentially, pretty much every attendee will have to go through the vendor hall at some point, which is pretty nice. But that also means everyone was waiting to get in on Thursday and just kind of flooded in. I basically made sales like the moment the hall opened, which was crazy. Normally on like Fridays at other conventions, you kind of have to let it cook a bit. Like I wouldn't get a sale within the first hour maybe, but at MagFest, it's different. And I was not ready for it. For Thursday, I stayed from around 2 from when it opened to around 9 p.m. And this is kind of what my chart looked like for Thursday. So as you can see, it kind of petered out a bit towards the end of the night. I definitely could have stayed longer, but I just decided I wanted to save my energy for the next 3 days because MagFest is a marathon. The next day, Friday, we got up around 9 a.m. because I live around 20 minutes away from the convention center, so I wanted to get up early, prep food, and we got there around 11 a.m. I find that con goers and gamers do not wake up too early, so I felt like I didn't miss out too much by not being there at like 10 or whatever. I feel like if people see that your booth is closed at 10 a.m., they'll come back around eventually. So I wasn't too stressed about that. But Friday went even more crazy than Thursday. I barely vlogged just because things were just really hectic and stuff, but in a good way. So here is my sales chart for Friday. As you can see, around 1 p.m. was the peak. And then even towards 9 p.m., it was still like decent sales. Like genuinely, I could have stayed longer. And even though I was super exhausted on Friday, I still decided to go to a rave on Friday. Me and my friends had tickets to go see Sub-Zero Project in DC, which is a hardstyle artist, and I love hardstyle. So even though I knew I had to wake up tomorrow morning and I was super exhausted, I still wanted to go. And it was worth it. But oh my god, on Saturday, I was so tired. We were out until like 2 to 3 a.m. and I woke up at around 9:30 to get ready and go to MagFest again for Saturday. We got there around 11, and for most cons, Saturday is the craziest and busiest day, and MagFest was no exception. The thing about MagFest is that it is 24 hours again, so even though I'm not personally at my table, there's people walking around the vendor hall. And the way my booth was set up was I would cover most of my other products, but I would kind of have some of my prints peeking through. Some people, it's easier to stare at a table when the artist isn't there, right? And make your decisions on whether or not you want to buy something. So from the time that I'm not in my booth, it's kind of a nice browsing period for a lot of people. So the moment I sat down, people already were ready to buy things. It was crazy. I wasn't even settled in. I didn't even have my sip of coffee yet. And people were like, I want to buy stuff. It was crazy. So here is my sales chart for Saturday. As you can see, these are some big lines. Again, there was a peak at 1 p.m. and then a little bit of a dip. But for the most part, it was pretty steady throughout the entire time I was there until around 8 p.m. where it finally kind of died down. But it's days like Saturdays where I'm really grateful that I had people to help me. My friends were there in attendance, so they're able to grab me food, give me a bathroom break, run my booth for me sometimes while I walk around and take a break. It was great. I definitely think MagFest is a convention you need a helper for. With the long hours and the amount of people that are there, I definitely think I would just perish if I was by myself. But I definitely made a blunder on how much stuff I should bring, even though I could have just restocked back at home. There was a few things I was running low on Friday, so I was like, oh, I'll grab more for Saturday, and I did, but I just didn't grab enough. I was selling out of things on Saturday, which was upsetting because I knew I had more stock back at home that I should have just brought. And, you know, when you're sold out, it's like nice, but also like kind of frustrating because it basically means you're missing out on sales because you don't have this item. But I would tell people if they were interested in an item that was sold out, like, oh, hey, I'm local. If you come on Sunday, I will have this item for you. And some people definitely did come back, but some people didn't. And that's just a missed sale, which is upsetting, but it's just how it is. I just should have better prepared for this convention, but again, this was like a record-breaking convention for me, so I just didn't know what to expect at the time. Since it was a gaming convention, a lot of my gaming themed stuff did really well, so I ran low on the gamer keyboard cat pins, and then also on a few prints like my gamer cat print, which is crazy. If you ever travel to MagFest, I just recommend bringing like as much as you can, because I definitely think if I flew to MagFest, I wouldn't have brought enough stuff at all. I'm super grateful I was able to go home and like restock on things, but yeah, definitely a learning lesson. But Saturday definitely is the chaos time. Like, it was around 9. People are pre-gaming, people are getting ready for nighttime activities, but people are still shopping. So this one guy came up to my booth and really excited about my art, wanted to buy some pins. He was clearly a little inebriated, which is chill, but it was funny because there was a girl next to him who was wearing a happy birthday tiara or sash or something like that. And the guy just looks at the girl, they don't know each other, and was like, "Holy shit, it's your birthday. Let me buy you something." And she was like, "Huh? Like, are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, no problem." And he just started adding stuff on. He was like, "Let me get this. Oh, this looks good too. Let me get this. Let me get..." He didn't even know what the deals were. Like, I do 3 pins for 30. He was just picking up whatever he wanted and whatever that random girl wanted. So the drunk sales are real, and I'm living for it. But I shut everything down around 10. What was funny was I wanted to go home at like 9:30. So I told David to go take the little sheet that I cover my booth with and go cover the booth, because it was kind of hard for me to get from the back to the front of my booth really easily because it was a little crowded. All the tables were like connected together, so it took him a little bit of time to walk around towards the front of my table, and in that time more people came and wanted to buy things. So he's kind of just standing on the side looking at me, and I was like, well, if there's customers, we can't shut it down. And there's customers for at least like 30 more minutes. So we didn't shut down until like 10. And like, honestly, I could have stayed open longer, but I was pretty exhausted. And also, I wanted to go to do the other stuff at MagFest. So the best thing about MagFest, in my opinion, is the games. The indie arcade is so much fun because it's just people showing off all their hard work on their games they're developing. Like, making a game is so much work. I get it. So it's just so fun to see how people take the medium of games and make it their own. Like, we were playing this game and the controller was like a door spring, and you had to control this light going up a beam and like dodge the other lights. Like, it was so different. The thing I like about indie games is just like people are just doing whatever they want. They're making controllers out of like door springs and wheels and stuff like that, and there's just no rules. So if you ever table at MagFest, I do really recommend actually trying to go do stuff at MagFest, because again, it is my favorite convention for a reason. I'm just sitting here glazing MagFest, but I really do love it. And of course, they have all the other kinds of arcade games like pinball, Street Fighter, Japanese rhythm games, which I love. And then the other aspect about MagFest is, of course, the music. So around the venue, there's these spaces called jam pods where people perform all sorts of things, whatever they want. So I saw this like furry folk band one time when I was walking by, but it's just like another great aspect about MagFest. There's always like something going on, and people are performing and doing all sorts of cool things. Like, my friend did a DJ performance at one of the jam pods, and then another one of my friends had their band perform. I just love watching people perform because they're just in their element, showing off what they got. Like, I really love music and all that, so definitely check out the performances if you ever attend MagFest. I'm really glad I made time to go see them and stuff, because, you know, it's just people sharing their passions. I'm sharing my art passion, and they're all sharing their music passion. The video game hall sharing their video game passion. Like, it's just good vibes, you know? But we did stay out pretty late on Saturday too, since I was busy watching my friends perform and exploring the convention still. But it was worth it. For Sunday, I wanted to be there a bit earlier since it was the last day, so I wanted to capture any last minute sales. So I showed up around 10 a.m. this time, and it wasn't actually super busy at 10 a.m. Gamers are gamers, and they were not up until maybe like 11. But I did make a few sales at 10, and then it definitely started to spike as we got closer to closing time. On Sunday, MagFest stops letting people into the vendor hall at 2, but they formally close at 3. But essentially, like looking at my sales graph, it essentially closed at 2. I did get some last minute sales and stuff, but it definitely peaked at 1 with all the last minute sales and shopping. But overall, Sunday was still really good, but I was pretty tired of MagFest at this point. All the side quests and stuff and tabling for so much time was definitely wearing on me a lot. So when it was time to close down, we packed everything up and headed home. Home being 20 minutes away was so nice. I think I would explode if I had to make a long drive after that weekend. But yeah, that was MagFest. I had a super great time. Again, MagFest is my favorite convention. I know I've said that a lot, but it just made me so happy to finally be able to table at this convention that I've been going to for so long. But I guess the sad part about tabling is that you don't really get to experience the convention when you're tabling, since your time is so limited. But the thing about MagFest being 24 hours is that after I'm done tabling, I do have some time to check out other things because it's still open, you know? So if you're ever thinking of applying for MagFest, here are some things that I think you should know. They definitely are looking for gaming content. It is music and gaming fest after all. So if you just have only anime art or only anime fan art, I don't think you'll have a super good chance of getting in unless you have more gaming focused stuff. It's just like not super what they're looking for. I think it also helps to have a variety of products. So if you only do prints of non-gaming art, I don't think you'll have the best chances of getting in. This is all just like speculation, but just from walking around the artist alley, this is just what I assume. I think some of the stuff that stood out on my portfolio were my Rhythm Gamer cat pins and my other gaming inspired merch, because those were the things that did best at MagFest actually. I did sell, a lot of Gojo cats. I sold a lot of anime themed stuff, but my best sellers were the gaming stuff. Of course, shoot your shot, apply, but definitely try to include some gaming inspired merch within your portfolio if you want to apply for MagFest. So even though I do have some anime stuff, most of my stuff is original or just like gaming inspired or food inspired with just cats. So it definitely goes well with most audiences, I would say, because who doesn't like cats? So my best-selling categories were pins, number 1, prints, number 2, and then stickers, number 3. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're applying. And then also, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, be super aware of when MagFest applications open, because they will only open for 30 minutes. In years prior, it was like an hour, but they just keep reducing it every year, thinking that it will reduce the amount of people applying. But to be honest, I think people who want to go to MagFest are ready to apply even if the window is smaller. So that's just something to keep in mind. So let's go over my expenses for MagFest. So the table costs $350 and includes 1 badge, and it's 6 foot wide. It was a pretty deep table, so I fit more than I expected onto the table. But the thing about my spot was it was a corner space, but I just had 1 table. So essentially all the space behind my table was overlapping with the other table that had the other side of the corner. So it was really tight where I was. Like I could barely fit me and a helper back there, let alone like any of my stuff. But we made it work. But if I had like a backdrop or something, I definitely see myself being just trapped in there. So that's definitely something to consider. But the thing about MagFest is that they don't give you your table location in advance at all. You know your table when you show up. So I did not know I had this corner space until I showed up. So if you ever table at MagFest, I would just be prepared to adjust your setup if you have any kind of like backdrop elements or stuff behind your table, or even if you kind of have a corner space. Like I didn't have anything to put on the side of my booth, which was exposed, So just be prepared to adjust your setup if needed. I spent $200 on extra badges. Each extra helper badge was $100 and I bought 2. And then I spent $108 on parking, which is still kind of a lot, even though I parked at MGM for a few days, but it's the cost of doing business, I guess. And again, I live pretty close by, so I didn't pay for any hotel or any other travel costs, which I'm super grateful for. But even if I had to fly in, I would say MagFest is worth it. Even if I had to get an expensive hotel and drive like 10 hours, I would say MagFest is worth it. My expenses came out to around $658, which is pretty low for MagFest. I had such a good time. I love the convention. I love the people. The venue is really beautiful if you ever want to do cosplay photos. The venue management could be a bit iffy if you heard about what happened to Katsucon. Katsucon is held around a month later at the same venue as MagFest, and basically a pipe exploded in the artist alley during Katsucon and like rained down from above onto artists' tables and like damaged goods. They had to shut down artist alley, and it was essentially all the venue's fault because there was a leak. They knew about the leak and then didn't fix the leak. So the venue is kind of a boo, but it is what it is. And then the parking is also a boo, since I essentially parked 3 days at the convention. I parked on Wednesday to set up, and then I parked on Thursday because I didn't know how expensive it was gonna be, and then I parked at MGM for free on Friday and Saturday, and took the bus from the casino to National Harbor, which normally costs like $2 on the metro bus, but when I got on the bus, they kind of just let us on for free, so yippee. And then I parked at National Harbor on Sunday so I could load out and stuff. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the management of the place, but it's a nice place to get cosplay pics, I guess. So my total expenses came out to around $658, which is a lot lower than what most people would spend going to MagFest. But again, even if I had to spend more money, I would say MagFest is worth it. I was able to bring a lot of food from home, so I saved some money there. But yeah, I definitely broke my all-time profit record for this convention by a long shot, actually. So previously, my best-selling convention ever was Otakon, and there I was still pretty new to conventions, but I made around like $6K-ish. For MagFest, I made around 13 times more my expenses, which is crazy. Normally for a convention, if I could like 3 to 4 times my expenses, I would say that's a pretty good convention. But 13, that's a lot for me. I'm super grateful for it. I'm super grateful for the opportunity to be even tabling at MagFest, since I've been attending MagFest for a while and I've seen the artist alley over the years, and I just definitely never saw myself being good enough to get into it. I don't know. I'm not trying to be like super humble or anything. I just really didn't expect to get into MagFest ever, to be honest. It was kind of like, I don't know. I've just been doing conventions for about over a year, and it's just nice to see myself like progress and my display get better, my art get better. You know, it's nice to see that your hard work is paying off over time. But yeah, overall, I love MagFest. If I ever get in again, I would come in a heartbeat. Definitely the 24-hour aspect is something you gotta prepare for. Either you have a helper or just you gotta set the hours for yourself or bring a crap ton of Red Bull. I don't know. It's up to you. But yeah, MagFest is great. And even if you don't table here, I recommend attending. I'll be going back to my regular vlogging style of getting clips at the convention and stuff. But let me know if you like this format as well. I just didn't get enough footage because MagFest was so busy. But yeah, if you found this video helpful, let me know and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!